today changes my whole entire life.
Welcome to Gritability, a podcast about the power of perseverance, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds to attain the life of your dreams. I'm your podcast host, Ro Clausen, and with me in the studio is the beautiful and radiant Ro Clausen.
Hi, everybody. I'm really excited for this interview, and I just want to say, Adam got laryngitis a week ago today. So last night, we were out to dinner with our friend, who's our guest, who we'll introduce in a second. But when we got in bed last night, he goes, "Wait, did you realize I got my voice back?" So I just heard a little bit. So we're going to hope that it stays. Otherwise, yours truly is going to have to do the talking. Sorry, not sorry.
I was going to say you have no problem taking the lead, and I'm happy to let you lead.
Okay.
So I want to introduce our guest today, Mr. Aaron Parks. And to give a little bit of background here, Aaron and I had the good fortune to meet not that long ago. And really, over the last few weeks, we've been able to connect a couple times in person. So it's very cool to have him in the studio. I think this is somewhat serendipitous that he already had a trip planned out here to Vegas. So we love having you here in the studio today. Really excited for you to be able to share your story. Welcome.
It's just been a great couple months here getting to know Adam and Ro. It's been phenomenal to hear their story and find out how much we actually have in common. Is pretty amazing, and just really glad to be here.
Beautiful. So, Ro, I see you're you're ready to jump right in. Go.
I am, because you said we have a lot in common, and we do. So I want to unpack it. I want to go all the way back. Adam likes to relate the gritability stuff back to sports very often. And I know you're an athlete, and you have this amazing story about, being an athlete, and then something happened. And then, so let's just start there before I try not to give it away, but give it away.
All right. I am originally from South Carolina. Grew up with not a whole lot to work with. Very humble beginnings, and two older brothers, and just was trying to find a way to live the life of my dreams, which was wanting to take care of my future family, my future wife, my future kids. And the way I thought I was going to be able to do that was through the National Football League. I was an outstanding athlete, naturally strong, played football, college ball for Wingate University, which was my unfortunate mistake. But
what do you mean by unfortunate mistake? Tell us about that.
I was recruited by the University of South Carolina when Coach Lou Holtz and Charlie Strong was the defensive coordinator. And I had an opportunity to go there, but I was going to be guaranteed to be redshirted. And unfortunately, Wingate also made me an offer and told me that I would not have to sit the bench and be redshirted. And I wanted to play right away because the goal was always to leave school after my junior year and declare for the NFL draft, and didn't see it clearly. And I went on to Wingate University instead. And the reason why I say it was a mistake is because at that time, even more so than it is today, is that Division II players didn't get recruited, or not recruited, but looked at for the NFL draft at that time. And so regardless of the fact of how well I would play, I would not probably get drafted coming out of Wingate University, more than likely. So I played defensive end. I went there. I had a phenomenal season. Then met my future wife at that time. Ended up getting married while I was still in college. Had a phenomenal year, and decided I would transfer. Unfortunately, at that time, transfers weren't like they were today, where you could just jump in the transfer portal. They can't stop you. They can't encumber you. They can't do anything. Didn't work out that way. So I decided I would transfer, and my coach at the time blocked the transfer. Ooh. And so when he did that, that would mean I would have to sit out for 2 full seasons.
Two seasons?
2 full seasons.
What? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I was going to transfer to the University of South Carolina. And yeah, that's what happened. So I had two choices. I could go ahead and transfer, because at that point, with him blocking my transfer, there was no chance I was going to play for him. So I went ahead and declared for the NFL draft. Hired an agent, declared for the draft. I was an unbelievable athlete. I was 275 pounds. A lot of you listening to this podcast will appreciate this. 275 pounds. I could run a 4.3940 with a stopwatch, 4.4 electronic timer. I was jumping about 43 inches, doing 225 about 29 times on a good day. I was unbelievable. Short shuttle was 4.4. So I had great lateral quickness, and was going to go to the NFL. I was sure of it. I got the invite to the NFL Combine. I was preparing for that Combine, and I was in the greatest shape of my life.
And how much could you squat? Because you just told us.
It was, many people don't believe this, but it's actually true. A little over 1,100 pounds.
Amazing.
And I'm told that's some kind of record, but at the time, it seemed kind of normal to me, I guess. But that's what I was doing in college. In high school, I was squatting over 900 pounds in high school.
Wow.
So I had great explosiveness, and I was on track. I was ready. We had done everything right. I was on my last tune-up session, and I'll never forget it. I was in a tune-up session running 40s, and it was my last workout before the Combine. And my lovely wife, Nicole, said, Aaron, I think you've run enough. I'd run like 9 40s. And for whatever reason that day, I couldn't quite get the 4.3. And me being competitive, I was like, man, I kept running like 4.41, 4.42, 4.4, 1.5. I mean, it was like really close, and I just really want that 4.3. I got to 4.3 on the last one, but I also got my hamstring. I pulled my left hamstring, grade 2. So it wasn't very good. I couldn't do anything. Went on to the Combine anyway, but could not work out. All I could do was talk to teams. And really at the time did not realize that would be what would end up ending my dream to go to the National Football League, because after that Combine, I rehabbed, I healed, got back on my feet better than I was even before, and could not get another invite to the Combine and could not get a tryout. I was able to try out for the Philadelphia Soul in the Arena League. They made an offer to me. The contract was like under, $30,000 a year. Didn't really make a whole lot of sense, Then I had an opportunity to play in the CFL. They made an offer about $60,000, but that was after I had gotten a job. But that's when things got really tough. We were living on student loans at the time, Nicole and I. And don't ever do that. It's a really bad idea. And so we were living on those student loans, and the money ran out. And so I would not give up on my dream. I kept trying and kept trying and kept trying. And eventually we would actually end up losing everything. We would end up in our car. And that was tough. That was a tough moment, because I felt like at that time I had failed. I failed as a husband, failed as, being a successful human being in life. And here it was, sleeping in a car, and my wife sleeping in the car with me. And it was really, really hard. And I refused to go back home. I refused to ask my parents to bail me out, because I just didn't think that, they didn't get me in the mess, so I figured I'd get myself out. And so I continued to battle. At that point, I had an option. I could go to work at a Wendy's that was across the street from where my broken down car was parked, and I could walk there, or I could go to work at this car dealership up the road that had just been built. It was also a walking distance. So I walked up there 7 consecutive days. And filled out applications 7 consecutive times. And by the 7th time, guy comes out, walks out. I didn't know at the time, but he was a general manager / owner of the dealership. Comes out of the little tower thing and sits down with me, and it's like, son, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. He said, why you keep on filling out applications? We're not hiring. I said, well, sir, I need a job. And he said, well, as long as you're not going to shoot the place up, I guess I'll go ahead and give you a job, but I'm kind of questioning your sanity here. I said, well, I need a job. So he gave me an opportunity, thank goodness. And then everything took off from there. There was a lot of struggles, lot of struggles. It took me 3 months to sell my first car. I was awful. Every mistake you could make, I made it. And fortunate enough, they were very patient with me and gave me an opportunity to learn and to make mistakes and screw up. And I'll never forget it. And this is a really important part of the story because this is where I became a man. Because I was 3 months in, I hadn't sold a car. And I came home and I was working my butt off. I was working every day. And so came home, I was able to scrape up enough for, us to get, a roof over our head. Even though I wasn't selling cars, I was still making minimum wage. And so with that being said, I came home and Nicole said to me, so honey, is everybody else selling cars? I said, yeah, everybody else is selling cars. She said, well, maybe it's you. And I paused and I looked at her and I got angry. And I said, how could you say that to me? I'm working hard. Of course, it's not me. And all of these different things, right? And I'm sitting there. And so I storm out and I'm angry. The next day I come back and I said, maybe it is me. And that's when I learned that when things aren't going well, when there's something that you don't like, look no further than the mirror, because that is the culprit, is you. And so I started to accept responsibility and say, okay, it's me. It's not the clients. It's not, they're not all, we're not all getting lucky, right? The same guys are selling cars and the same guys aren't. And so when I accepted that responsibility, everything changed. I went from being awful. 2-3 months later, I was leading the board. I was the top guy. And the way that happened is I started to listen to other people. And I started to hold myself accountable for the mistakes that I made in the process. And once I did that, I was off and running. And so from there, I climbed my way up to finance. And that's where the story gets really interesting, is I'm there selling cars, and I notice these guys every day. They're wearing nice shirt, tie. They're always driving a brand new car, and they're always getting lunch. And I just remember how hungry I was all the time, because I would have to go days without eating, because we literally had nothing. So I just remember how hungry I would be, and how they would be getting Subway or McDonald's or whatever. And I just remember thinking, man, I really want that. And that's when I realized that I wanted to do that. So I went to my boss and I said, hey, what do I need to do that? And he said, well, you're too stupid to do that. He said, you're not smart enough. You have hit your peak.
What?
You are where you are.
I hope he has no children.
Well, he actually does. And the story gets sweeter down the road for that. But he said, you're too stupid to do that. So what I did is I saved, I said, okay. I found out what school those guys had to go to become certified. It was a school called JM&A School down in Deerfield Beach, Florida. And it's about like a 8-9 week course. It's crammed into like 2 weeks. So it's really challenging and really difficult, but that's what you have to do to learn the skills you need to be able to do finance and insurance. And so I'm just sitting there, and I decide I give them a call, and I say, so what do I need to do to come to your school? You have to have a dealership sponsorship. Okay. And so you mean I can't pay for, my own tuition to come to school? No, you can't. So I kept calling them every single day. And so finally, probably after about 30, 40 days in, I don't remember the exact time, but finally got the same guy on the phone. And he said, you know what? Hold on. And so he goes and gets somebody. And And he's like, this guy will not stop. He is just, it's too much. Like, we got to do something. And the guy says, well, you got $10,000? And I said, well, no. So you telling me if I get $10,000, I can come to school? Yeah, you get me $10,000, you can come to school. Don't call back till you got $10,000. So, okay, great. So I saved it up, scraped, saved it up. And I called him back and I said, I have $10,000. Oh, okay. Well, here's a date. You can come to school. I said, okay, great. Now, at this time, we had a 1992 Ford Tempo. The door did not work on the driver's side, so I would have to climb in and out NASCAR style. I had to cut it off at red lights because it would overheat. It was the only car we had. And so I would have to drive that car from South Carolina to Deerfield Beach, Florida. And so I took 2 weeks off from work because I had built up the time. And I drove my butt to Deerfield Beach, Florida. And I graduated that class with a perfect score.
Wow.
Nice.
There's only been 5 people in the history of taking that course that have done it at a perfect score at the time that I got it. So, I proved at that point that I could do it. And I worked my butt off. So I drove back. I was excited. I couldn't wait to show my boss the certificate of completion. And so I walked back up in there with my head held high, and I laid the certificate down, and he goes, what is this? And he looks at it, and I said, I got a perfect score. And I showed him the sheet where I had a perfect score. He looked at me, and he said, you're fired.
What?
You're fired. So I got fired that day. Because
Can we name names? Can we just put this guy all the way out there?
I can't put him out there, man.
Oh my God. We need to put this guy all the way out here. We need to put him on blast on social media.
Yeah, he fired me. He fired me. And
What was his reason?
I went against what his wishes were, which was, he told me I was too stupid, so I was supposed to stop. And without the backing of the dealership, I was an embarrassment to the dealership, and I was insubordinate.
What a miserable man.
And so they fired me. And so
we're ready to swing. The two of us are like,
Yeah.
tell us where he lives.
So I gathered my things, and then I went to the rival dealership about 30 minutes up the road, and I said, hey, this is my experience. This is what I have. I have my certificate. I want to be in finance. They said, well, we will hire you as a salesperson. You prove yourself as a salesperson, then we will maybe look at putting you in finance. Well, I stayed there for about 2 years, and they kept passing me over. So finally, I decided to go to a dealership where good car guys go to die. This dealership was the worst dealership in Honda's franchise in the entire United States. And it happened to be in a little town in North Carolina, in Statesville, North Carolina. And this dealership sold about 10 cars a month. And so I went to it, and I said to the guy when I got there, I said, hey, you guys aren't selling any cars. I have this finance certificate. If you will allow me to do finance, I will come here and I will do finance. And I'll promise you, I will triple your production at least. And he said, he was an old redneck. And he said, well, if you can get us to 40 cars a month, then I'll let you do it. So my first month, I got us to 60. I sold every car that we had on the lot.
Nice.
And I'll never forget, Nicole, we had one car. And we had a nicer car by this point. We had a Honda Civic, and it was amazing. It was a little tiny car, but it was amazing because it was new. And I remember Nicole driving up to pick me up from work, and she's like, where are all the cars? I said, I sold them all. So we literally ran them out of cars. So they had to get an emergency shipment from Honda. It's great. So I finally got my shot. And so from there, I became the top finance manager in the United States of America for all of American Honda. Did that 3 consecutive years back to back to back. As a matter of fact, that's how we got to Vegas the first time, because I was the #1 ranked finance manager in the country, and we got to stay at the Wynn Las Vegas. And so that was our reward. And We got to come twice. The third time they didn't do that trip, but it was 3 consecutive years. I then got on with American Honda Finance. Themselves became very, very successful, making a couple $100,000 a year. Had my 2 kids, and things were just great. And then in 2019, I became discontent. I had been making that good money probably for about 10 years, and I felt unfulfilled. I felt like, well, dang, we're here. I work a lot of hours, but I'm not helping anybody. And so Nicole and I started Parks Insurance Agency. When we first started Parks Insurance Agency in February of 2019, it was for life insurance. And so we did the life insurance for a little while, and I was still at Honda, still working. And I was there, and it wasn't going that great on the life insurance side. It was just all kinds of little pitfalls and whatever, but we weren't doing much. And I met a client named Donald Kincaid, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me using his name, but he gave me a call needing life insurance. I helped him out, and he wanted me to do health insurance. Okay, and for a long time I sat there and I said, man, I kept kind of blowing him off, like, oh yeah, I'll do it, but I really wasn't going to do it. And so I kept blowing him off. And so he did me the same way I did everybody else. He called me every day for 6 weeks. And I'm not kidding. And then one Friday afternoon, he came into my office and sat down and said that he wasn't leaving until I called Blue Cross Blue Shield. And so finally I got frustrated, picked up the phone, called Blue Cross Blue Shield. And little did I know that all of the things that had happened in my life, my brother, who had returned from incarceration when I was a child, so I got to see what that looked like up close and personal, and the challenges that he had with resources coming out, especially medical resources. And I little did I know where all that would end up leading. Well, called Blue Cross Blue Shield. They said, okay, great. You got us trained for 6 weeks before we'll talk to you. Great. And so I had to do that. So I did that. And one, I wish I knew the exact date, but it was in November of 2019 in Camden, South Carolina. My life would change, and I'm going to say millions of lives will be changed because of this meeting. And in that day, I found out why everything happened the way it did. And so I went to this Starbucks in Camden, and I sat down with Missy Ferguson Peoples, who is a regional director for Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina. And we go over the programs, and the programs are very expensive for individual and family, plans. And I'm thinking to myself, I just wasted 6 weeks of my life. Donald can't afford this. This isn't going to work, right? And so she goes to walk. We go to walk out the door. We're done. We had been there for a couple of hours, and she says, "Wait a minute, I forgot to tell you about this one program that they just kind of repealed this because of COVID that happened, and really want to get into this. But with that being said, you're probably not going to want to do it because it doesn't really pay a whole lot. So this program pays, and I'll give you guys a percentage. This program pays about 5%." Of what the other plans pay, which are significant. And this program pays little to nothing, pennies. And so I said, well, I don't, necessarily care about that. What are you talking about? Well, she said, you can get free health insurance on this program. And I'm like, oh my God, free health insurance? What are you talking about, free health insurance? You mean like a discount plan? No, free health insurance. So she goes into this whole story of how it all works, right? And so I find out about this amazing program that is for real. And I'm just like, I can't believe it. I'm like blown away, right? And in that moment, guys, it clicked. I sat there, and all of a sudden, all the memories started rushing back, from my brother to the failure for football to finance and insurance that I learned that I had to go to school for, all the years of experience in finance and insurance with Honda. It all came to me in that moment. And I said, that's why. That's why I was born. This is why, right here. and I'm going to have to go do something very, very uncomfortable. I'm going to have to quit my job.
Wow.
And
Quit the job at Honda.
Yes, we are
Couple $100,000 a year.
Yep.
2 young kids at home.
Yep.
Your wife.
Yep.
Okay.
And she does not. She's always been home, and we have always been a one-income household.
What was her response to that?
Well, that was very interesting. So, so I leave that Starbucks. I go quit my job. Right.
Did you tell her prior?
No.
Okay.
So I go quit. I go quit my job, and the boss is like just flabbergasted. He's like, you're crazy. There's no way you can't quit. Yeah, I'm quitting. I'm done. And so I go home in the middle of the afternoon, pull up, and it's kind of like that feeling you get in your stomach when you're a kid and you're in trouble. And
Do you forget that?
you remember when you were a kid and they say, Adam Clausen needs to come to the principal's office.
He usually wound up in handcuffs, but
Yeah.
I've been there.
Adam Clausen, come on to the principal's office. And the whole class goes, ooh. That's how you feel, right?
Yep.
And so I get out of the car, and Nicole's in there, making dinner or whatever, and the kids are still not home. And so I walk in the door and open the door, and she's like, oh, hey, honey, you're home early. Why didn't you call me and tell me you were coming? And I'm like, She's like, what's wrong? I said, I quit my job. She said, what? You what? You quit? Yeah, I quit. And she's like, to do what? I said, to sell free insurance. She said, honey, you need to sit. Sit down. Are you kidding me? To sell free health insurance? How much is this going to make? I said, about $10-15. She said, Aaron, are you okay? I was like, no. You don't understand. This is why I'm breathing. This is why I'm here. She thinks I've gone completely nuts, right? And,
Been there before.
yeah. And so I look her in the eye and I say, honey, if we go down, we're going to go down with Parks Insurance. If we go down, we're going to go down helping people. If we lose this house, this car, and all of these things, so be it. And so she said, well, I guess I'll follow you, right?
wow, ride or die.
And so she did it. She followed me. And we have now become the top producing company in the United States of America of this insurance, serving over 100,000 families.
Wow.
Since the beginning. So it's pretty crazy.
Is that your personality though, that you had to quit your job because you had to have nothing in order to succeed? Because it seems yeah. Incredible.
It's the only way. You have to, and I told you guys this last night at dinner. You got to burn your boats.
Yeah.
We talk about the Vikings, and the story behind that is that they were no bigger, no faster, no stronger. But when they got to a place to conquer it, they burned their own boats. And so they had no choice. There was no retreat. There was no option. It was either through the opposition or they were going to die trying. And that's where you have to get to be successful.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to struggle and dig and fight and have guts and courage.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And that's not where in that moment, the hard times didn't stop. It took us a couple of years after that to get to where we are now. So
I'm going to pay you a compliment that's going to sound like an insult, but you're going to understand what I mean. And then you're going to have to explain it.
Oh.
You, Mr. Aaron Parks, are a dog.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yes. So we talked about that yesterday. So all you sports guys will appreciate this. There is basketball players, and then there's MJ. He's a dog. There's no, he's not afraid. He's going to always take that shot. Kobe Bryant was the same way. Mamba mentality. Didn't care if he shot 25 air balls, the previous 25 shots. He's taking the last shot, and he's gonna rip your heart out to win. And that's the way I'm built. I don't care who says no. I don't care how many times you say no. The God I serve is bigger than your no. And if it's his will, it's going to happen. And I believe this is what he wanted me to do. And so with all of all those emotions, flooded back at once. And I realized in that moment what I was supposed to do. And so if that meant losing everything, that's okay, because that's his will if I lose it. So what? I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And so we're going to help every man, woman, child in this country have access to this, or I'm going to die trying.
Wow, that's powerful. And I love the analogy, burn your boats, go all in. Clearly, you've done that. You've had tremendous success, 100,000 families. That's a lot. And what is the goal?
The goal is to the goal is to have this accessible for all 300 million Americans in this country.
Wow.
To have it accessible, whether or not they take it, well, of course, is up to them. But if we can just make it accessible for them and make it to where the homeless and the people that are struggling to make ends meet, the people that are out here working every single day, trying to scrape and take care of their children, to know that they have this amazing gift available to them, is all that matters to me.
Well, and this is kind of where our paths crossed, because I had the good fortune to get connected to you through the organization that I joined not that long ago, Social Purpose Corrections. Came on board there and bring all of my knowledge, my skills from while I was incarcerated, working within those settings. And for me, it was always a priority to make sure that I was doing everything that I could to make sure that individuals like myself were better off upon release, and prior to their release, and then ultimately as they're coming back into the community. Like, we experienced it, and we've talked much about our journey. Man, there was a lot of challenges, a lot of things that we did not anticipate, despite the fact we spent a decade preparing for it, despite the fact that she had a good job, and was able to be that safety net. We came out during COVID, so things were, as crazy as it sounds, during that period was the ideal time for us to make that transition. So we had a chance to kind of view the process, to be observers of it as we were going through it, and constantly reflect and go, damn, I don't know how somebody who doesn't have a wife that's right there, that's able to take me to all these appointments, these check-ins, struggling with my health, physical health. I spent 20 years incarcerated and they didn't take care of anything. I still have an ACL that's blown out that's never been repaired, which resulted in other issues. Never got to go to a dentist. Didn't have my teeth cleaned in almost 15 years. All of those things, and understanding that having that access to not only the physical components, but substance abuse treatment, right? Mental health, prescription meds. Like, there's people coming out, they got diabetes, they have mental health that needs medication, whatever the issue might be. Generally, those systems are not in place. And the alternative is what? Medicaid. Medicaid's not set up for this. And believe me, you have educated me over these last few months, like shown me a whole different world that I had no idea, despite all that time I spent in the inside, despite feeling like I was really well connected to the available resources. I had no idea about this. And the crazy thing is, the reason my voice is going right now is because I'm doing back to back to back to back calls every single day, sharing the education that you've given me with others. And these aren't just like random people. These are prominent, they're politicians, they're directors of Department of Corrections, they're sheriffs in jails, like all of these people that have no idea that this opportunity exists, that for their part, to achieve positive outcomes, to know that the people in their care are going to get out and have a higher chance of success. Like, this is something that they start to get really excited about. And they always ask me, they're like, wait a minute, man, this sounds a little too good to be true. And I always have to laugh because that's really where our conversation started. And man, you schooled me on it, gave me the whole history, all the background. And I know nobody on the podcast is probably too interested to get into all that history or hear us talk about that. But there is an opportunity, like more than happy to get anybody connected who wants to get connected to the insurance, gets connected to Parks. Like what you're doing is absolutely phenomenal.
And who you're doing it for is even more phenomenal.
Yes. And man, I wish I would have had this when I got out, right? Like,
Right.
You could tell them to scan that QR code that's on the screen right there. I'm going to leave it up for the remainder here, but that'll take you to the website.
Thank you so much.
excellent. Thank you. Man, but what's more powerful about this? Like, I'm a big believer in relationships, right? And Ro and I frequently have this conversation about being intentional about who we allow into our circle, making the choices in the relationships that we choose to invest in. And the last couple of years have been rough,
Yeah.
right? We've gone through some challenges ourselves, had those difficult conversations, found ourselves at those crossroads, and to look back and go, you know what? It was all to put us right here.
Mm-hmm.
I had a conversation with the CEO of my organization before we came here today, and he was so excited because there's all these things developing. I said, I'm going to pick up Aaron. Then we're going to go in here. We're going to, be in the studio and have a chance to talk about this. And I was excited about it. And I said, this is how it's supposed to be. Like I wake up in the morning, I'm excited. A lot of times I don't even know what's on the agenda for the day, but I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm fulfilling my purpose. I'm serving people that genuinely need what I have to offer. And I'm working with other great people who have the same intention. Now, we heard a bit of your story last night, but there were pieces that I didn't even know until today that you shared. I had a feeling that there was more, but man, like it all makes sense now, right? Your story, your struggle, knowing that you are right where you're supposed to be, like also affirms me that we're right where we're supposed to be. And I'm grateful to be sitting down with you today and definitely looking forward to us spending more time together.
Yes, absolutely. It's it's a privilege, man. You guys' story is so inspirational to Nicole and I. And, we were just looking, we were sitting in the wind last night, just looking out, over the strip and just reflecting on, we just can't believe where we are. We talked about the tempo with overheated the red light, man. I had to freaking cut the thing off and just pull over and add water to it, and just all of those things and all of those difficult things. And man, it's unbelievable. I mean, we have impacted so many people, and we're going to do even more. And it's just, it doesn't even feel real sometimes.
Mm. Do you have any other questions for Aaron? Because I feel like, man, it's been incredible having this conversation.
Yeah, I don't have any other questions, but I was going to ask you one that you just answered without me asking, where I was going to ask you, you've come so far and how do you stay so humble? Because you and Nicole are so lovely, but I think you just kind of answered it by saying you reflect in gratitude, but correct me if I'm wrong, please.
We do. That's part of it. But the other part of it is my faith. In believing and understanding where it all comes from, and understanding that, I fought and I worked my butt off and we did all that, but without God, it's none of it happens. And He is really the champion here. He is really the president of Parks Insurance, not me. I'm just a stand-in. He could have used anybody for his will, and He chose me, and I'm very humbled by that. And I never, ever let myself get up there because that's His spotlight. And so, we had a situation I told you guys about in the car. We had a difficulty with a homeless shelter not letting us help the residents there. Everybody had, was really upset yesterday and had said that, we probably won't be able to, get this worked out anytime soon. And I told them, you got to have faith, and I know he'll do it. And so woke up this morning with a text message and an apology, and they're going to set up tables for us to come help the guys out on Tuesday. And, it's just God's power, man. That's all it is. It's not me, it's him, and he's in control. And I know that, right? And so that's how I stay humble, and that's how Nicole and I both stay humble. And we're just blessed, man. We're just blessed. We just want to help people and just live our lives helping people. That's it, in service to others.
I love that. What's your quote about helping enough people?
Key to getting everything that you want in life is to help enough other people get what they want.
Facts.
Firm believer in that. I mean, that's why we are where we're at, and grateful to be around other people that share that value that same, investment in helping others, serving others. Honestly, that's what it's all about. And you look at those people who are really, really successful, and they'll generally acknowledge the same thing. So,
yeah, it's true. It's, to kind of expand upon that as far as, I think there's like this, misconception, if you will, that, if you go out and you help others, you have to be poor yourself. Not true. God, you look in the Bible, you look what he did with King David and King Solomon. I mean, they had everything, right? And they were, obviously two of his favorite people. And so he wants us to be successful. And like you said, Adam, you said it best. If you serve enough people and help them get what they want / need, you will have everything you want. And we live a life that doesn't feel real. I wake up in the morning and sometimes I like, wow, they really gonna pay me to help somebody today? Like, are you kidding me? And it's the way it is. I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy what happens when you serve others, and that becomes your focus. Everything else comes organically.
Yeah. I love this. And part of my life's path and purpose, I believe, was to help support loved ones of the incarcerated. And you being a loved one of somebody who was formerly incarcerated, yes. I always said that the biggest struggle I found for the people in my community were, 1, legal services, and 2, mental health services. So, and I never knew how I would be able to help provide that to my community because I don't have the financial backing to do that. But this right here answers that mental health component. And it goes even a step further where if you don't feel well, the rest of the world is crumbling around you. I mean, you can't go through the day all day, every day, day after day, in tons of pain and operate at an optimal level. So I appreciate this so much on behalf of that whole entire community. That is a huge step to be able to just live.
Right, it is, and this is something I don't really talk about. Y'all heard it from Nicole last night at dinner a little bit, but my mother-in-law, and I don't talk about it because it's really. Really a sore spot for me. It's really emotional. My mother-in-law died because she didn't have substance abuse treatment available to her. She was in and out of prison, in jail, and tried to check herself in rehab, could never find a rehab that would take her, could not afford the insurance, and she died of a drug overdose because of it. And it's a really sensitive subject for me because I had a lot of love for her. She was very troubled. Nicole's grandmother had to raise her because of the troubles and things she had, but you would never meet a nicer person and a better human than her. She was very giving, very, very wonderful person that just could not get the help she needed. And that's what drives me. And I can tell you that if any DOCs or jails, prisons, or anybody's listening to this, I'm coming. You will, if you haven't met me yet, you will. And you need to be on my side because if you're not, it's not going to be good for you.
And if you're a family member, I'm coming with him.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not going to be good for you because there's no links that I will go to, guys. It's not about money for me. We're very comfortable, and I mean, if we stop right now, we'd be great. But what Nicole says it all the time, and I say it in my presentation when I'm talking to DOCs and prisons and jails. I am the most dissatisfied, successful human being on planet Earth. I'm telling you right now, that is me. And I have to remind myself to enjoy myself and enjoy, the fruits of my labor and things like that. Nicole has to remind me of that because I work. My work ethic is sickening.
That's why you guys get along.
I'll work till 2 a.m. and I'll get up at 6, 7, and I'll do it every single day. And if somebody's in the way of helping others, I will make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I'm so sorry to hear about your mother-in-law, but I love that you use that as your purpose and part of your drive.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't talk about it a lot. It's a tough
Sure.
one, but it hurts. It still hurts. I mean, she's been gone now for, about 14 years, and it still hurts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's finding that purpose, that meaning. That's where that drive comes from. And the persistence that I heard throughout your story, they better not doubt you when you say that you're coming, because you've proven it time and time again. And I say it all the time. I'm like, I don't know how anybody would ever bet against us because of what we've been through. But it's like his story, amazing. It's the same thing. How could you ever bet against someone who's already been through what you've been through and accomplished what you've accomplished? Listen, I anticipate continued success far in excess of anything that you can see right now. And I am happy to be a part of this and support you in any way that I can. I'm coming with you to all those DOC meetings, by the way, man.
Got that right. That's right.
I am here. I am grateful to have met you. And I'm really grateful that we had an opportunity to spend some time in here with you today to get all of this recorded because, man, you have an incredible story. Power of perseverance, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. That's what this podcast is all about.
I'm sorry, were you ending?
Yes.
George, real quick, if there's a QR code on the screen and somebody's watching, I know, but if they're watching from their phone, how do you scan a QR code like that? Do you have to take a screenshot?
Take a screenshot, go to your camera roll, and then you should just 3D touch it, and it should just open up the link.
Okay.
But that link right there will take you, ladies and gentlemen, to this website right here. And then you can fill out your forms, but it takes you to the park agency. So
Thank you. I just never knew how to do that.
And if you do go to the website without the QR code, make sure in the referred by box you put Gritability in the referred by box, please.
There you go. Gritability. Power of perseverance, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. It's been another incredible episode with our guest, Aaron Parks. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your podcast host, Adam Clausen, the beautiful, ever radiant
Ro Clausen.
And we'll see you back here on the next episode.